discuss is the recommendation by the panel to delete the pre-1944 building demolition overlay and related controls. And the reasons given by the panel is that they believe that the best way to manage character is through applying special character overlays to areas, and that the council needed to do further work to convince them that the areas of pre-1944 met the criteria for special character. If you remember, the council's position at the hearing was that the pre-1944 was a precautionary approach. Yep. The overlay was always intended to be temporary, and our case at the hearing was that it should fall away 3 years after the plan became operative, within which time further survey work would have been done on the areas subject to the pre-1944 overlay. On balance, the staff are recommending that you accept the recommendation of the panel to delete the pre-1944 overlay. There's two key reasons for that. One is around the fact it was always a temporary provision in the plan, which was going to fall away in 3 years' time. The second is that during the whole course of the hearings process, we have had our heritage team out surveying areas within the within the pre-1944 overlay. And so that work has actually identified 7 new areas that they believe should be called special character areas, and they've also, and 4 extensions to existing areas. And they've also identified around 31 places that they believe would be worthy of scheduling on the historic heritage schedule. A plan change to apply the special character overlay to those 11 new areas and to schedule those 31 places could be notified in early next year, and that would take it through a plan change process where the owners of those properties can become engaged and would afford those areas the level of protection that special character areas and scheduled buildings have once the plan change is notified. So on balance, we believe the work is continuing in the other areas, and as they do that work, more plan changes will come to the new council in the new term.
Right, okay. Councillors, I'm going to lead off the batting and actually move this recommendation. There are a number of great debates and discussions that I recall going into the preparation of the final draft document, and heritage was one of them, and in particular it came off significant community engagement, debate around our chamber really for the first term. For those of you who are sitting around the chamber in the first term, and for those who weren't, this was sort of the hot topic, particularly in the first year with Turua Street and places like that. And we really went into bat on a range of fronts, including setting up the Heritage Advisory Panel and dealing with a couple of demolition notices, and for the first time ever in I think New Zealand local government history, basically voting against them, and 4 of them. So we took a fairly formidable stance. But the issue of how we dealt with heritage generally, and particularly within the urban environment on the isthmus, was a vexed issue, and we in the end, and I very much championed this, went for a 1944 overlay because we didn't have anything like the level of detail around our heritage and an appropriate reflection of that through our zoning rules. I believe that over the last 3 years, and so we did it on the basis that we were buying time to actually get the right level of analysis, and I believe we've done that. It's not perfect, but it's pretty damn good, and we've had guys like Noel running around the place doing extraordinary work with the heritage team in analysing our urban footprint and ensuring that we have levels of protection there that we no way had in place 3 years ago when we did the draft. Secondly, just a casual appraisal of what is in our plan already as specific heritage areas and what has been proposed with places like Hill Park, and for those out in the East, Howick is a special character area now. So there's been, I think, a relatively high level of recognition of heritage, and it's not added to beyond what is necessary by the 1944 overlay. I just don't think that we can justify it, and agree with the officers' reasoning on this, and then secondly what the IHP has said. So I want to agree with the IHP, with the officers, by and large, around the issue of supporting the fact that it's time to put aside the overlay. It's served its purpose. And on that basis, therefore, I would be supporting the underlying recommendation from the officers and from the IHP. Councillor Mike.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I have to respectfully disagree with you, and disagree with you strongly. I just cast my mind back to what we were debating and what the officers were telling us a few minutes ago about the sites of value for mana whenua. This is exactly the same principle, but we're talking about built heritage, three-dimensional, absolutely valuable and valued part of our collective heritage. And if, it seems to me strange that we would disagree with the independent unitary plan panel over mana whenua sites of value, and agree with them when it comes to getting rid of the precautionary approach to protecting and assessing our built heritage. You're quite right to recall how heated the issue of heritage was during the first term of this council, and how the pre-1944 demolition control overlay helped to ease public concerns and build public confidence that the council was listening to public concerns and was doing something constructive about protecting heritage. And indeed it was. The council, in the limited time it had, carried out an assessment of the pre-1944 overlay buildings, and took a very conservative approach, I have to say, but found 18% of the buildings within that overlay did merit support. Now, the bureaucratic process of getting around to protect those buildings takes quite a lot of time, unfortunately, but that's the way it is. In the meantime, that overlay is absolutely needed. Now, I'd have to say, commend the panel for at least being consistent in what I would say is a dismissive attitude to the precautionary approach when it comes to heritage, but at least they're being consistent when it comes to mana whenua values and everyone's values. However, where the unitary plan panel was inconsistent was to say, first of all, that there wasn't an evidential basis for the mana whenua sites, or claim there wasn't, but ignore the fact that there was an evidential basis for the pre-1944 overlay. And the other point where I find it hard to understand the independent unitary plan panel was to say, we can't find any evidence of threat. They're obviously not reading the newspapers. Unfortunately, council staff weren't able to satisfy them in terms of numbers and metrics, which is disappointing. However, if they were worried about threat, they have went on and upzoned, took away or advocated taking away the protective overlay, and then upzoned single houses, not once, quite often twice, and absolutely incentivise their destruction, their demolition by those upzonings. I believe, Mr Mayor, that this overlay needs to be retained until the job is done properly. Once it's done properly, then we can do the plan changes, and to come back to my first point, decently and in order. And therefore I see no reason, and certainly a huge amount of public support from the people of Auckland, of keeping that pre-1944 demolition overlay, what is left of it after the very rigorous and conservative assessment, keeping it in place until the job is done. That's our responsibility under the Resource Management Act, Part 2, and we need to comply with that and respect that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Chris.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. I guess if at the start of the day we had taken Councillor Quax's proposal that we adopted the IHP, I would have probably been okay at this point. But because we've actually chosen to unpick some things, I want to unpick this one because we've known from the beginning that we had a major problem here. The former CEO knew, he knew we had a shortage of planners and appropriate staff to do our work comprehensively. If there is one issue that has brought discredit to the whole process of the unitary plan, it has been our failure to deal appropriately with the whole issue of heritage. We've polarised communities. We've got, I call them I've got two groups. One, you've got the fearful group, and that's older Aucklanders who want to hold on to heritage. And you've got the frustrated group of young people who just desperately want to get into the property market. And I think it's our failure to deal with this appropriately that has stalled things and has caused so much polarisation in the community. If we don't fight this, and I knew that it would be flimsy, that was why we needed to actually do those individual assessments. But what do we say to the good people of Point Chevalier? And please note, I am not talking about Mount Eden. What do we say to the good people of Point Chevalier who have all those birds roads, all of those beautiful homes that they have got absolutely no protection being afforded to them whatsoever? And we know that there is heritage in that area, but we haven't actually had the time or the ability to be able to go and do justice in a comprehensive role. So I'm really upset because I think if we don't go in and fight on the pre-1944 and actually fast-track some of this work that should and must be undertaken in terms of heritage, it causes a lot of grief on some of the upzoning. That, you know, you don't want to get into street-by-street analysis today, and nobody wants to get into that, I know, but underpinning much of the real angst on the unitary plan has been this issue, and I just would implore, given that we've decided to take apart the IHP's recommendations, which, you know, as I say, at the beginning of the day, I would have adopted them and said, right, okay, there's a lot in here that I don't like, but the public are wanting certainty, we need to move on. But we haven't done that. We've actually gone back and we're reopening all sorts of wounds. So if we're going to do that, I'm putting squarely on the table the fact that I think that this will continue to discredit and continue to cause a lot of animosity within our communities, particularly old people against young people. It's not the way to proceed. So we need to have that evidence. We need to have that information about where our heritage is. This is about telling the story of Auckland. We know that a lot of the pre-1944 stuff is simply not worthy of any kind of protection. but there are properties that are, and there are areas that we haven't done justice to, and I would just implore you to ask officers for more information on this today. We've sought more information on other topics. Why can we not have more information on this topic?
Right, Councillor George.
Yeah, well, thanks, Mr. Mayor, and I'm going to be, and it doesn't seem to be to follow up what's up on the board there at the moment, but I'm going to support the removal of the recommendations of the Independent Hearings Panel in relation to the pre-1944 overlay. This overlay has actually made it more difficult for development across the Auckland Isthmus.